Hi, everybody. We just wanted to put a little bit of a content warning at the start of this episode. In this episode, we do talk about weight loss and dieting and things of that nature. And so we just wanted to let you know at the start of the episode. And if you are not in a place where that is a good episode for you to be listening to, we encourage you to take this week off and join us back next week for a different episode. Thanks so much. And now on to our episode.
Hi, welcome to Bloom Podcast. I'm Courtney. I am a mental health nurse turned life coach.
And I'm Sydney, a certified Canadian counselor. Together, we're going to be discussing all things mental health and counseling.
We hope you join us.
Welcome, everybody. We're back today, Courtney and I, and we're chatting about resolutions. So we thought with the new year, it would be a good time to kind of talk about our thoughts on resolutions and maybe give you a couple different perspectives and some helpful tips and tricks, hopefully.
Okay, so hi, everyone. It feels like Sydney and I haven't recorded in the longest time because we had a bit of a break, and that break was over the holiday season, which we super loved, but we also love being back here. And as we record this episode, it is mid-January, which is around the time when people's New Year's resolutions kind of start to go down the crapper a little bit. But we're not here necessarily to talk about staying on track. We just want to talk about the term resolution and kind of just resolutions in general, what comes with that language, and our perspectives on that.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking for a quick moment before we started recording, and just kind of, it's interesting, I guess, for me, the things that come up when we say resolution. Like for myself personally, when we say the word resolution, I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that. I'm anti-resolution. And I think for me, it feels like a lot of pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I was thinking about it earlier today as I knew that we were going to be recording this episode. And when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, I think resolution has this bad name to it because I think people automatically associate resolution with weight loss and or health goals and fitness and having to do like some big sort of having to climb some sort of giant mountain.
Yeah, and I think part of that makes sense to me because looking at what's in ads and things that I see online in the new year, it is new year, new you. And, you know, you ate all those cookies in December, so now it's time to only eat iceberg lettuce for all of January.
Yeah, and like dry January, I don't know if that's the actual term, but I know that's like another thing where people maybe indulged a little more than they wanted in adult beverages over the holidays, so they want to like cut it out completely for the month of January.
Yeah, sugar-free January I've seen.
Yeah, and I've seen so many more commercials for like Atkins and Noom and Weight Watchers and all of the kind of quote unquote diet lifestyle modification things. So I think it's just, I think when we think resolution, it comes with like this all or nothing thinking, which is usually never a good thing.
No, and it kind of leaves you feeling like you are not enough. Like it leaves you with this feeling of, oh yeah, it's the new year, so now I have to try and be this new version of me because the old version of me really sucked.
Yeah, it's like it's you're kind of going and sending the message that whatever you were doing, however you were being, and you could have had like a really great year, but it's just kind of highlighting the things that are less desirable about yourself. Or
Yeah, and it's almost like that word resolution, it makes you like do that mental Rolodex of, okay, well, where am I not good enough? Where am I lacking? Because now it's time for me to get better.
yeah, and I think when we shift our focus just to that negative piece, I mean, when we think negative, I'm a cognitive behavior therapy girl, so when we think negative, it turns into feeling negative and bad.
Well, for sure. Because if you all of a sudden are saying, okay, it's the new year, I'm doing this resolution, and what do I have to get better at because I suck? And of course you're gonna feel crappy. Like that to me just feels like it is the natural domino effect of that kind of thinking is if I'm thinking that all or nothing thinking, that piece of I suck and I have to be better and I need to lose XYZ pounds this year and all of that stuff, it really does leave you feeling really crappy.
Yeah, or even like, I know Sydney, I'm going to just share personal things about Sydney without her permission, but I know that Sydney makes goals to read so many books throughout a year.
Yep.
And like, she had a baby this past year. So I think probably, I'm going to guess, you didn't meet your goal.
I did not.
Strange suspicion. But even if we take it away from weight loss or lifestyle or health, even goals like that, where we look back and reflect, you can feel like you failed at something. Um, when in reality, like your life was a lot different this past year than it ever
Mm-hmm.
had been before.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think it sounds like kind of where you're going with that is like resolutions inherently are not bad, but sometimes with them comes some stumbling blocks that we could get past to maybe feel better about resolutions.
Yeah, I think it's, and we've talked about this in other episodes. I think it has a lot to do with the language. I think
Mm-hmm.
when we hear the term resolution, there's so much that comes with that, whether it's our past experience with them, whether it's kind of the labels that we attach with it. Um, so I agree with Sydney. I don't necessarily love a resolution per se, but what your girl really does love is goals. And I think it's important for all of us to have things that we are working towards. And again, it can be anything. It can be towards health and fitness. It can be towards our education. It can be towards our career. It can be our relationships. It can be self-improvement. It can be anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's important that we have things that we look forward to and want to reach and meet and keep us motivated.
Yeah. And I think I saw this term kind of circling around, and it was like the term a hope list. And I think that's another way you can shift that thinking.
Okay,
And
I'm
it's
just going to pause you for 1 second and go hope List because I heard hope lists and I was like, that
no, yes, a list of like hopes,
okay, perfect.
not hopeless, but it's
Ooh,
that idea of maybe for you, it's almost like these steps, right? Like resolutions comes with a lot of black and white thinking, and maybe goals are a little bit more concrete. And I think a hope list is kind of that next step down. Maybe
yeah.
for you, goals doesn't fit either.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're at a stage in life where you're like, well, I don't know what to put as a goal. Everything feels unattainable. I'm super overwhelmed. And so then maybe you take it the next step down and it's a hopeless. So it's really, in my mind, that feels really easygoing. It leaves that all or nothing thinking behind, and it's like, oh well, I hope this year I can kind of work on prioritizing my sleep. That's what I really hope, that my sleep gets a little bit better this year.
But yeah, I really like that language as well because people are at different stages, right? So for some people, like they're ready to take action and they're ready to meet some sort of goal.
Yeah.
Um, and that's awesome. But for other people, that might seem a little intimidating. They might not be there yet. They might just not, yeah, it might not just be in the cards for them. But to have a hope list is kind of a little bit more like at your own pace, less expectations, easy breezy. It is a hope. It's not highlighting or identifying any kind of flaws that you see in yourself or deficits or things that you want to improve. It's just kind of these desires.
Yeah. And I think if you're making goals, it's probably going to be a lot more concrete, more
Mm-hmm.
in that resolution stream, but maybe not so black and white. And I think that hope piece is just a little bit less concrete. You're not maybe necessarily making a plan of like a goal might be, I would like to try and get to bed by 10 p.m. every night this week. That could be
Yeah.
a goal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, and a hope is just, I think I'm just going to try and work on some things to get a better sleep. We're kind of more vague. I guess when I think about it, it's a little bit less, if you're someone who's kind of hard on yourself, that hope might fit a little bit better because you're going to be a little bit kinder when you don't have those concrete expectations.
Yeah, and if you don't if you don't meet that hope that particular week or within a particular time frame, it's it's not like you failed. This was
Mm.
a hope, and
Yeah.
it was a hope that happened at a particular period of time, and things might have come up between now and then.
Yeah. So I'll even kind of think of my reading goals or my reading hopes for the last 3 years. It has been to read 50 books a year. And the for 2019 I read 47, I think, and then
Oh, so close.
2020 I know, and then 2020 it was like 48, and I was like, okay, like I'm so close. And I think in 2021 I read 36.
Oh, that's still
Whoa.
impressive.
Right. Well, and for me, I was like, oh, I wasn't even close. But I thought this would be the year. I was like creeping up. I thought this would be the year I made it to 50. And so for 2022, I put 50 again. And I think when I think of it, I could say that's my goal, but I'm really not that concerned
It's
about
not like
it.
on December 31st, you're going to try and read four more books to get to
Yeah.
there, just to say you did
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Like, I think it'd be really cool to read 50 books in a year. If I do it, great. If I don't, I'm not really going to be that upset about it. And so for me, I would probably label it as a goal, but I think in my mind, I think of it as a hope.
As a hope. And I'm just thinking like, oh, I can't remember. I don't think I've read 36 books in my lifetime. So to think, oh my goodness. And I just want the people listening to know that I'm a little bit more like goal oriented than Sydney. So when she told me that she was behind, I told her to read her kids' books and just to get notches on her belt of like, I did it. This is one. Or like picture books. And she has too much of a conscience that she said that that wasn't it, and those wouldn't count.
I one time logged a cookbook and then I took it out because I felt bad about it. I was like, that doesn't count as reading.
Did you read the whole thing?
Well, I like skimmed all the recipes.
Oh, well, that would be. I wouldn't count that either.
No, it has to be like a book. So, I mean, I have rules around this, but I'm really never that worried about it.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. And I think there is a shift, at least in the algorithms that come up on my social media, and probably that's because those are the things that I'm interested in. I really do think there is a shift for people to be kinder to themselves, to take away the negative connotations that come with like the term resolution. And I think people are setting goals more towards like self-care goals, or kind of like, I'm saying self-improvement, not that you necessarily need to improve yourself, but like just like self-development maybe is a better
Yeah.
term.
Yeah, like we're all moving forward in life
Yeah.
and kind of choosing how you do that in a way that's very intentional.
Yeah. So I feel like there is a shift for that, but at the same time, at the same time, like I had a baby and I gained weight, and like I want to get rid of that. And like, I feel like I don't want to be shamed for like where I want to be with my personal goals, right? So I think
Mm.
there's this movement towards like I don't know. It's like, it just feels like you can't do anything right. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, almost.
Yeah, like if you're making resolutions and you're making goals, it almost can feel dirty sometimes. Like you should just be
Yeah.
happy where you are. And the flip side, for some people, making those resolutions and making those goals leaves them feeling really crappy too.
Yeah. So I think it's about like, I think ultimately you're going to do what you want to do for yourself, right? Like, I think if you have health and fitness goals or resolutions, I don't think, I just want to send the message that like there's no shame in that, right? I don't think that you need to feel bad about that. I think what we want to put out is a word of caution of like your expectations for success and doing it. I think I think what I want people to do is to set themselves up successfully, right? Which is not, which goes back to goal setting, and it's setting reasonable expectations for yourself, because it is really disappointing when you don't meet those goals, and your body and your life and all these different factors play into to how anything becomes successful. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like it feels wrong to like to want to have a resolution nowadays, but I
Hmm.
don't think that should be the case. I think we need to be smart and go at it with like a a kindness, a self-compassionate lens.
Yeah. And it sounds like, in hearing you say that, it sounds like the first step in any of that is to know yourself. Like
Yes.
you know about yourself that you are a goal person. You
Yes.
like goals. And so I think knowing yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think for me, when I think about myself, it's almost more like I think I am more in that hope list category. I like to think about all the things I'd like to do and the places I'd like to go. And I got a new cookbook for Christmas. I'm not counting it on my reading list, but I said to my spouse, I was like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to make every recipe in this book, like to just go through and do them all. And there was like, I think like 150 recipes. And I was like, okay, well, I can't
And
do
they
that.
probably don't even all look that good.
Well, it's a baking book, so they all look
Oh,
good.
okay, okay. Okay, well that changes things.
But it's that idea of I wouldn't ever say, okay, my goal is to make 3 recipes a week because there's 150 recipes and then I can do them all by the end of the year. But instead, I was like, oh, well, I would like to go through the whole book and make every single thing at least once.
Yeah. I would like to be invited to your house when you're doing this.
But it's that idea of like, I know myself and I would never make a tracker and check things off because to me that would make it not fun anymore.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like that's what it all comes down to, and I think that that's one of the overwhelming themes that we always talk about is like doing what's best for you. And
Mm-hmm.
when I just think about like life coaching clients and things like that, like these people that I work with, they typically come in with very specific goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had clients before who are like, well, I want to lose weight. And I know, like, I know the big theme is body positivity and love yourself where you are, but like, I'm not going to love myself until I lose weight. And it's like, okay, there's a lot more entangled with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're not going to get into today. But I don't think it's brought, like, I think this person sees everyone else there being like, acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. But I think in their core, like, it's hard for them to accept themselves where they're at right now. Um, and it's just like, I don't know. Now that I'm saying it out
Yeah.
loud, I'm like, oh man, there's a lot to unpack there. But
I was gonna say I have so many thoughts on
I
this.
know, sure. But I guess it's what I guess. Okay, this is going to go deep, but it's like it's what are your intentions behind it, right? Like
Mm,
I think has a lot to do with it.
yes.
So you're not going to be the same. Like your reasons for wanting to do something don't need to be the same and aren't going to be the same as someone else's.
Yeah. And when I think of, we've mentioned weight loss a lot, and because the reality is weight loss is so heavily marketed in the month of January.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a reality. And that marketing can leave you feeling really crappy. And so I think when I think of weight loss, I don't think it's a bad thing to want to be healthier. And if part of that is losing weight, I don't think that's a bad thing. The flip side, if you hate your body, losing weight is not going to make you love your body because that
Yes.
hate doesn't stem from the weight. The weight
Yeah.
is just what the hate is focused on right now. And
Yes.
so I think thinking about goals, thinking about resolutions, it's okay to say this is an area I'd like to improve. But again, you need to know yourself and you need to know, am I saying I need to eat healthier because am hating my body and that's why I need to eat healthier? Or is it if I lost weight, I would feel better, my joints would feel better, and my heart would feel better, and I would feel like I could do more things. I want to be healthy and I want to be fit because of all of these reasons. I think, again, it's that. I think if you're going to be someone who's setting goals, if you're going to be someone who's doing resolutions, you need to do the work to dig deep down and figure out what's going on under the surface that's motivating that goal or motivating that resolution, because that's part of what's going to give you your success.
Yes, I want to do like a ding, 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 like hit the nail on the head because it's so true. It's like where is this coming from has everything to do with it, right? Like wanting to do something so that you can, like, I just think about like I want to be able to run around with my kids
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be able to keep up with them and I want to do those types of things.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a lot different than saying, like, I can't stand looking at myself in the mirror and doing this and restricting food and exercising
Mm-hmm.
5 hours a day is going to change that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Sydney, where is a good place to unpack these types of things?
Oh, my favorite place, therapy.
Therapy.
Well, and I think that's the piece, right? Like I've unpacked this with lots of people in therapy because it is such a common theme. And I think the other reality is when you mentioned a really good point. When we're talking about what's motivating you to complete those goals, if it's this deep seething hate, you're going to go to these extremes that are not sustainable, that are not healthy in any stretch, and
Mm-hmm.
that are going to really at the end of the day make you miserable. And then the next week, it's not sustainable to exercise for 5 hours and eat iceberg lettuce only. Like that's just not sustainable for any stretch of time. And so then the next week, you're going to be back to eating the way you were, back to exercising or not exercising the way you were. And you're going to feel miserable because that hate is going to tell you you're a huge failure and you're not doing a good job. Whereas if you're saying, I want to be more fit because I want to feel good and I want to be able to do more things, that's going to motivate you in a totally different way to do something way more sustainable and say, well, what does that look like? Well, I would like to be able to go for a longer walk so I can enjoy nature. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And there's no timeline or pressure on that, right? It's like
Hmm.
as it fits for your lifestyle. So I think I do want to I do want to get off the topic of like health specifically with resolutions, but I think it really goes for everything. Is just where where is this desire coming from, right?
Hmm.
I just think when we set ourselves up with the lens of working towards something instead of working against something, if that makes
I
sense.
love that. Yeah. Like a goal is not a way to make yourself to crush yourself down. It's
Mm-hmm.
this way to build yourself up.
Yes. So, like, I want to work towards just having more active lifestyle with my family.
Yeah.
I don't want to work against negative thoughts about myself, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think it's about it's really it comes back again to that language piece, right? And
Yeah.
how we're framing the things that we want.
Yeah. The word that comes to my mind is prioritization. Like the reality is we can't, no one can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those goals, those hopes, even those resolutions can give you a lens for what matters to you and what you want to prioritize. So for me, my priorities are reading and baking.
Yeah.
And that's pretty true. Like those are things that I would like to do more of because those are things that leave me feeling really good and really happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about, oh, I'd like to bake through this whole book. I'd like to read 50 books this year. That just helps me think about, when I have a free night, what am I going to do? If my
Yeah.
goal was watch 100 movies, that would tell me, oh, well, that's probably what I'm going to do when I have a free night.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of helps you prioritize what you want to do, where you want your life to head.
Yeah, and like where you want to put your energy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's where the hope list really comes in because I think if you have a night where you're kind of twiddling your thumbs and you're like, huh, I don't really have anything specific going on, you
Mhm.
can go to those things that fill your cup, right? You
Yeah.
can read that book and you can get into that cookbook and get out the ingredients and you can really fill your cup. But at the same time, if your kid is sick and your car breaks down or this and that, that's going to come first, right? And that's where
Mhm.
those priorities are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when it's a hope list, there's you don't have to feel bad about
Letting those things
about
go.
taking care of those things and letting those things go.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think when I think about even goals, it just helps you, I think, for a lot of people, and not for everybody, right? Like we've said, but for some people, it can just help them know where their priorities are. And so if it comes down to there's only so much time in the day, and if eating more leafy greens is your priority right now, that might mean you spend more time cooking and less time doing something else. And that's okay too.
Hmm.
It's just kind of figuring out what's mattering to you in this month, in this moment, and how does that fit in with how many hours you have in the day.
Yeah, and let's also talk about like adjusting things as we go, right? Like
Yeah.
we might realize that and again, that goes back to the hopeless, but like it's July and you've read 2 books, and I think your expectations are going to change, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's okay. And I think that's again where that self compassion language comes in and realizing that, like, okay, this is what I thought was going to happen, and it's not
Mhm.
happening.
Mhm.
So let's circle back to this, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are my hopes now? Now that we've gone through this, or what's
Yeah.
realistic for me now?
Yeah, and giving yourself the grace to recognize that life happens to everybody and challenging those thoughts that may come up that say you're a failure and instead coming back with life just happened and it's July now, or maybe you said this in July and it's January now, and just coming back to, okay, well, what am I, is that something that still matters? And if so, what can I do today to work towards that if that still matters to me?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like I know a few years ago I set a goal or New Year's resolution or whatever the heck you want to call it to do more yoga. And like as we've talked about before, my my history with yoga is hit or miss. And I thought I was going to do it like 5 times a week, I think.
Whoa, that's a
Well, I
lot.
thought it was going to like I thought it was going to be like, because I would exercise that much, right? So I thought like,
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll do yoga. That seems like I can add that in. And like looking back, oh my gosh, did I reach that goal? Heck no. Would I make it again? Maybe, but maybe I realized that I wanted that goal and I don't really like yoga. So it's
Yeah.
okay to readjust that, right? And
Hmm.
in my mind, I'm still like, I really want to do this yoga. Still to this day. But like, I think it's okay to change our minds on things and relook at things and reevaluate things.
And that comes back to that piece again of knowing yourself, right?
Yes.
So knowing you have this want, how does it fit in with your personality, your lifestyle, and is there a way you can shift that goal or that hope to be more conducive to something you can achieve, and kind of going from there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when it comes down to it, resolutions aren't bad. They can sometimes lead to that all or nothing or that black and white thinking. But also for some people, they're a really good fit. Maybe for others, they do more goal setting, and others still maybe do more of a hope list or just kind of setting some intentions. But it sounds like at the end of the day, we all have to move forward in life. And sometimes knowing what matters, knowing what we prioritize, knowing what our goals are, can help us be more intentional about how we move forward.
Yeah, and I think like if I have one word is like make time for things that are important to you, right? Just like
Mhm.
don't put so much pressure on yourself. Do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great spot for us to end. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Good luck on your New Year's resolutions, goals, and hope lists.
Bye everybody.
Bye. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on our socials, thebloom.podcast on Instagram and Bloom on Facebook. Rate, review, share, and subscribe today.
This is not intended to be taken as medical advice. Please seek medical help for any mental health needs. If you are experiencing a crisis, please go to your nearest ER.